Hey Internet, it's Alex, and ever since I did the reaction to the Crow remake 5 months ago, I've been wanting to get a review for the previous movies done leading up to the release this Friday, the 23rd. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to, and only was able to get this script for the top four Crow movies from worst to best. So just to reiterate, this is my personal ranking. If you disagree, let me know. I'm more than happy to see what people think is the worst to best Crow movies. But I think I've got the same as most other people's. So let's go and take a leap of faith as we go through the top four Crow movies, worst to best. And to start us off at number four is The Crow Wicked Prayer. Now, this movie is as bad as the reputation it has garnered. It is not a good film. And if I was any younger, I would have defended this movie to the death of me, but it is not good. Unless you were with your buddies and you decide to try to make this a drinking game. You know, come up with a way of getting wasted, watching this film, making fun of it, mocking it, doing Mystery Theater 3000, whatever, I forget the name of that. But yeah, something like that. I could see you people having a good time with the movie. But yeah, even though I'm a huge Danny Trejo fan, even he could not salvage this film whatsoever. Like, it was just pure cringe in a lot of ways. I think Edward Furlong was an alright pick as far as looks, but I agree that he was terribly miscast as far as the acting ability to pull off the main lead slash the Crow. He didn't have the gravitas, I guess it is that people call it, to pull this role off. It was a nice attempt. I also think there wasn't much in the script for him to do, but that's just my opinion. Also, the social commentary in the beginning of the film is laughably underutilized, but kudos to the movie for trying to do something different to bring new breath of fresh air into the franchise. You know, that way it's not just the same shtick from 1 to 3 at the time. The fight scenes are pathetically laughable. I think at one point you can actually see that it's obvious wire work instead of it looking mystical, you know, because that's what it's supposed to be, at least in my opinion. And just its flaws outweigh its potential that it could have been a good movie. You know, there is potential there, but like I said, the flaws that it has just outweigh any potential that it had. So yeah, that's number four.
The Crow, City of Angels.
Now the number three spot is a toss-up for me between The Crow Salvation and The Crow City of Angels. But I think I'm going to give it to The Crow City of Angels only because I've only seen the theatrical version. There's supposedly another version that adds 10 minutes to it, but there's supposedly more to it, and not just 10 minutes was the full director's cut. If you want to know more about the story behind The Crow City of Angels, I do recommend checking out Good Bad Flicks. They did a video essay on the film, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of the film to check it out. He also does video essays on other films, mostly for films like true cinema history. But I put City of Angels at number three only because it's essentially a cookie cutter, beat for beat recreation of the first film. And no thanks in part to Harvey Scissorhands, co-founder of the Weinstein Company. And even though at number three, in my opinion, there are a few things I enjoyed about this one. For instance, I like that it's set in Los Angeles. It's a different setting than the grungy Detroit setting from the first one. It was also nice to see Tui Trang from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers before her untimely demise in one of her last acting gigs. I also like that they tried to keep the continuity from the first one, with Sarah being the connective tissue between two of them. Unfortunately, the Weinsteins freaking went in after the production and butchered the whole thing to hell. There is a god-awful CGI in the climax of this film that, in my opinion, kind of takes you out for the rest of the film. And even though the film desperately tries to pull you back with its final moments, it kind of does for me, but a lot of people might they might have there. The standout characters for me are Vincent Perez as Ash, the actress that plays Sarah, and the actor that plays Judah. I think they all did a very tremendous job. I think I've seen the actor that plays Judah in Law and Order before. I grew up watching that. But yeah, I think those are the outstanding performances. If the pendejos at the Weinstein Companies didn't meddle in the editing process, I'm pretty sure this film would have been higher up on people's ranking lists. Because it's got potential. It really does. It looks beautiful in a grungy and dirty way, just like the first film did. It looks lived in, obviously. I think more so than the first film. You have more extras and whatnot filling in the city rather than just empty streets for set pieces. But that's my opinion. The first film, we'll get to that. I love it, just like everyone does. But I do like this one too. It was up there until it would have held number 2 until I saw Salvation, and Salvation is, in my opinion, better than this. So yeah, The Crow, City of Angels, it takes number 3.
The Crow, Salvation.
And at number 2, I'll give it to The Crow, Salvation. And even though it was more or less essentially a made-for-TV movie, because it was the first one after City of Angels to release on video, which means back then it was on VHS. What's that, right? Now, I like this one a little bit because it was just different enough to etch its own identity better than any of the other ones, even Wicked Prayer, even though that came after this. And for being a made-for-TV budget, it doesn't try to be more grandiose than it has to. With it's not trying to be bigger than the budget allows it to be. There might be some faulty CGI in it. Like for instance, I think the only one that I can think of is when Alex Corvus, the main character, intimidates one of his victims by popping himself through the mouth, and you see him heal as the camera pulls back from the exit hole in the back of his head to his face, and then and the CG might be a little spotty to some. I think it still kind of holds up. It is a little dated. I don't think it's spotty, but it is dated. There's some callbacks. For instance, when Alex is in the strip club, he finds a worker handcuffed to something, I forget what. And if you remember from the first one where mother is the word for God, he does something similar.
How old are you? You have one chance to value your life. Take it.
I like that. I like that callback. I think there's a few more that I enjoyed from the first, and even I think the second one. Eric Mabius, who plays Alex, I think did a decent job. He sometimes sounds a little whiny in some of his, when he's trying to be aggressive and intimidating, but I don't know. I don't blame him. That's I don't blame him. Like, I don't know why the director was happy with that line delivery. Like there's one instance where he's riding in a car with one of his victims, and the victim asks him something, and is like, "What do you want?" And Alex Corvus goes, "I want my life back," or something like that. And it sounds so whiny, but you can understand where he's coming from. Like when you watch the movie, you can understand. He's still, I think, processing everything that's going on. I do also like that instead of him knowing to paint because the first one, Eric Draven comes up with the paint idea himself from the masks that he used when he was alive with Shelley. The second one, it was Sarah who remembered what Eric used in the first film And so in the third film, Eric is executed in the beginning of the film, so no real spoilers there. And from the execution, he has a face mask that they place on him for reasons. I don't know if that's something that they do in real life, but it's a film. It's an altered universe. So whatever. And from that, he had burnt flesh on his face, and when he gets resurrected by the Crow, he peels in a grotesque fucking effect all the excess of skin, and you see the marks, the scars form, I guess it's called a harlequin design on him. And I thought that was pretty nifty. I thought that was really, really great. I liked that idea. He didn't just come up with it himself. Somehow, the Crow took that and uses it now. So I thought it was great. But yeah, one of the few of the standout actors in this film. There's four. There's obviously Eric Mabius, in my opinion, Kirsten Dunst, Fred Ward, who plays the antagonist, the man with the scar, as it were, in the film, and I forget the name of the actor, but he plays Kirsten Dunst's father in the film. But he was also he played in Ghostbusters. He was the environmental dude that Bill Murray's character calls Dickless in the film. He was also in Die Hard. He tends to play them douchey characters. The ones that you love to hate, that has that like very punchable face. He tends to play those characters. Which, hey, someone's got to play them, and he's able to. But yeah, so The Crow Salvation takes number 2 spot. And at number 1, I'll give it to The Crow, starring Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, Ernie Hudson as Sergeant Albrecht, and Michael Wincott as Top Dollar. Now, I fell in love with this film when I first saw it, but I don't think I saw it when it first came out in '94, because I'd have only been 8 at the time. However, I think I did see it later in my life, probably about middle school / high school age. But I did fall in love with it. I fell in love with everything about the movie, the goth aesthetic, the fact that the main character had long hair. But that was a thing for me back with anything I watched in media. If the protagonist had long hair, my automatic instant fave for me. But also the fact that it was Brandon Lee, son of legendary martial arts master Bruce Lee, who I was a huge fan. I've seen almost all his movies. I think there was only like 2 or 3 that I hadn't seen of Bruce Lee. There's more that I haven't seen of Brandon Lee, but I have seen one of his other films. I think it was something about Tokyo. No, Rapid Fire. It was Rapid Fire. And even though that was more of a supporting role for him, The Crow, I think, was his first lead role. And had he not passed away making this film, The Crow, I think the landscape of Hollywood would have been completely different. And I don't like when people say, oh, if Brandon hadn't died, The Crow wouldn't be as popular. Da, 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 da. I don't believe that, because the themes and whatnot that The Crow touches on, everyone can relate. We've all lost someone at some point in our life that was close to us, be it a parent, a sibling, a lover, like in this case, that meant the world to us, and we had to deal with the loss, because that's what The Crow was about. James O'Barr wrote it to deal with the loss of his high school sweetheart, who he was going to marry, that died in a hit and run from a drunk driver. So I think regardless of if Brandon Lee died, this film would have still been a cult classic. And I think that he would have been an A-lister today, because there was a lot of stuff that he was being rumored to star in before he passed. The film itself is priceless. And even though it's got its flaws, because no movie's perfect, it shines through regardless of those flaws. The main standout performers obviously are Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, Ernie Hudson as, like I said, Sergeant Albrecht, and Michael Wincott as Top Dollar. I think he was very. I liked his portrayal, very menacing, cold, calculated. Ernie Hudson's character was warm and caring, and just wanted to do the right thing in the world that didn't let that didn't let people be that way. You know, they as it were condemned the people that wanted to do the right thing. And then obviously Brendan Lee, because he exemplified the character of Eric Draven. Like, he was that character. Now, we'll see how Bill Skarsgård does portraying Eric Draven, which I think is stupid, like everyone else, but I'm willing to give it a try because worst that can happen, I don't like it. I have the original 3 because no one talks about Wicked Prayer. But if I do like it, hey, it's another movie in the saga I get to watch that I love, you know, in a franchise that I love. But yeah, this has been my tier list from worst to best. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have a similar tier list, or if you guys have a completely different one, in the comments below. And yeah, just be mindful, be respectful. If you disagree with anything, that's fine. It's okay to disagree. Just don't be dicks about it. Live free, be safe, take care, positive vibes, and much Wicked Clown love, guys.